down in half.
Which one?
Unobtainium, which was
that's a coin.
Yeah.
That's not a shit coin, or is it?
It's a real coin, but it's limited in the number of coins that are actually out there. That's how they do it. They limited it severely. But again, volume is what drives these coins to some degree. And when people start buying and selling, they just look at the volume and all of a sudden they go, oh shit, there's a lot of volume, I gotta buy. But it doesn't necessarily have to be a ton of volume for that.
All right, guys, we are.
Yeah, you're gonna have to turn off the
Okay.
TV.
No, it's all good. The microphones, this is it. No, you're good. The TV's just fine. So the only thing that will pick up is what's going on in this mic. So I'm just gonna check. Yeah, everything's working. We're live on Facebook and YouTube right now. So I'm just gonna set that one right there. If you guys talk, just point it back to each other so you guys can get a good sound there. And then Tim and I'll use this one.
Fair enough.
What was I just talking about this? Am I getting picked up?
No, I mean it does, but like
We have to pass it.
yeah, not nearly as good as this. Or like Alec, if you just hold it and just like aim it at Eddie. Yeah, whenever Eddie talks, it really is. Until I get 4 to 5 or 6 mics, we're gonna do it this way. But the sound quality is much better when it's right here.
Got you. Do that NPR voice.
Yeah, you do. You got a good NPR voice. Very cool. Everybody, thanks for tuning in and listening. If you're listening or not, either way, I'm not going to set up the camera this time because there's too many of us, and I just don't feel like trying to figure out angles and lighting and all that. But I've got a few friends here. I'm sure they're probably more intelligent people than us. But as far as any of us know, some of the most smartest folks in Kansas City regarding Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. We've been messaging back a lot lately because there's a whole lot of drama right now in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency world. So we thought, what the hell? We'll get together, talk about some of this stuff in person rather than just. And like Tim and I were on the phone earlier this week for like 45 minutes because we couldn't find. We were trying to find something definitive, some unbiased source on this fork coming up with Bitcoin, and it was just a whole lot. There are a lot of people who have a lot of influence on the internet right now who are definitely kind of trying to steer the conversation right now. So here we are. Yeah, here we are. There's one thing I like to start off with, though, because, as you know, Bitcoin and Ethereum and other cryptos are making such waves in the news, and all the time people are asking me, and probably you guys as well, what the hell is this Bitcoin? Why should I get it? What's the benefit? That kind of thing. So for anybody who's new, we're going to give you about like a 5-minute rundown, and then everything else you're just going to have to start Googling if you don't understand what we're talking about. But for people who are brand new to this, Alec, will you start Why should people get involved in any cryptocurrency, whether it's Bitcoin or Ethereum or something? And before, because there are like 350 coins, don't get into all of them. A lot of them are trash. Focus on the main ones right now, like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and a few others. But in like an elevator pitch, why would you tell someone they should seriously consider a cryptocurrency?
Okay, so in the modern world, the only way you're going to control your own money is, well, you can have cash, but that's a little asterisk next to it because that can be printed unlimited pretty much. You can have gold, and that's pretty good, but it's pretty inconvenient. But you can have a cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, and that is designed to be the internet of money for the internet, and it's just gonna like revolutionize really the way like money works and how everybody kind of views money. Also, it's just if you're kind of an investing person, like. My dad just like asked me I'm going to buy Bitcoin like this week. He wants to do for hedging and stuff. Because I've noticed we haven't had a recession in a while, and we printed a lot of money through quantitative easing and stuff like that. If anybody pays attention to that, and it's a really good hedge because it really hasn't been correlated to anything yet. And also, if you want to hold it long term, which is something I would suggest to do and not play the market, is like long term you can kind of look at it as a binary state. If Bitcoin plays out to be what it's going to be and what it wants to be and what it could evolve to be that we don't even know yet, it's going to have to be worth a lot more. And the other option is it's going to be probably near zero. It like completely fails, and yeah, something really bad happens. It goes completely to zero. So if you want to buy and hold, don't try and like just play the market. Just if you put as much as you can lose, how much you're willing to lose, or just dollar cost averaging buy-in. So you just buy every week. And you just hold that, and it'll be a really good hedge for the future. And I can guarantee you, you'll get orders managed to increase within like a few decades, or it's going to go to zero.
Okay.
So I think that's your kind of bet.
Okay. Okay. What about you, Eddie? And Eddie's for people listening, Eddie is a big guy on Ethereum. So that's one of the cool things I wanted Eddie to come for, because he brings a very unique perspective, because he's not nearly as much of a Bitcoin nerd as we are. He's just as nerdy, but with just more Ethereum.
Well, Eddie here. I am somewhat of a Bitcoin critic, because the origins of Bitcoin were that it's the next currency, and I've never viewed Bitcoin really as a currency. I've only personally viewed Bitcoin as an asset to invest in. So whether it becomes the next currency or not, I don't know. It may be, it may not be.
It could just become the next gold, and that alone be amazing.
Exactly.
The next basic store of value.
But the original vision was that everybody would have some Bitcoin and you can exchange it like cash. The way that Bitcoin is now, you know, it is somewhat of a store of value.
But we're just getting, and I'll go into later, but we're just getting into layer 2, and we're just getting into
Right. So I first got into Bitcoin just as an investment vehicle. I got into it maybe about 5 years ago, 2012, 2013, back when it was maybe $25, whatever. And so I learned about it. What excited me more than Bitcoin was the blockchain technology. And I think that's where a lot of the value lies with cryptocurrencies, is the underlying architecture of the blockchain. So if you watch television now and see the IBM commercials, they're actually using the word blockchain, and that's whoever predicted that they would use the word blockchain on a mainstream commercial.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of companies, a lot of corporations are pouring a lot of money into blockchain technology, you know, and I think that's where the value of the cryptocurrencies come from, is the underlying technology.
Okay. And Tim?
So, kind of going back and the actual origin of how long it's been there. So January 3rd, 2009 is 8 years ago. So that's when this started. If you think about what it's done over that period of time, it's pretty incredible to look at what the results have been. And it was created as an electronic payment system based upon mathematical proof. That's probably its greatest and strongest asset, is that, or its attribute, is that it's a currency that's independent of any central authority, transferably electronically, and it's worldwide. So you're not sort of boxed into your fiat, or having to trade or do a currency exchange for it. It's something that you can invest in with your country's monetary value system, dollar, fiat, whatever that might be, and then you can utilize Bitcoin all around the world for whatever you want to buy: goods, services, products. Some things that are notable are major corporations that are starting to take Bitcoin. Even at Subway, you can buy a sub. And what people think is, why would I want to buy a $6,800 coin? Why? What am I going to do with that? What do I spend on it? What do I spend with it? It's to the 8th decimal point, so it can be spent in the minimal of values. If you have a coin, that just means you have a asserted value to what that coin is, and you can buy and sell and use it for goods and services in a very lower value. And so, I mean, the what it's used for ultimately, in my opinion, is a currency. It is a decentralized currency, which means that everyone has the books. Eddie has the books. Ryan has the books. Alex has the books. I have the books. We get to see every single transaction that's ever going to be made, that's ever been made. But we don't get to see who is making those transactions, just the value or just the transaction that's going back and forth. We don't know what the services are for, what the products are for. Ultimately, that could be a deterrent for somebody, but for most, it's a gain, it's a win. And I think that the most important part of it is that it's starting to do a lot of volume. I mean, it is starting to show up in against companies like Apple, like Microsoft. Its worth is gaining traction. It's 4 or 5 times now what an ounce of gold is.
It hasn't even scaled yet.
Yeah, it hasn't even scaled. We're 1%. I think I read where it's 1% of GDP. It could be attributed to Bitcoin.
Yeah.
The people, if you surveyed a room of 100 people, there may be 10% of those people say, I've heard of it.
Yeah.
And maybe 1 or 2 people say, I have it or own it, or I'm going to invest in it.
Let me ask you something, because I'm not a Bitcoin guy.
Yeah.
I used to be into Bitcoin a lot.
Sure.
And you're talking about, being able to buy sandwiches at Subway or whatever, Overstock, whatever. Back in 2013, I introduced my friends to Bitcoin at work. So everybody at work, I have an office of maybe 10 people. I gave everybody some Bitcoin, and we were trading it back and forth for lunch and things like that. So I'm going to try to make a transition to things that we're going to talk about later in the evening.
Yeah.
But at the time, the transaction fees for Bitcoin were very, very low. And so I don't find it as fun anymore. So in 2013, we were just trading back and forth. But over the course of the last year, transaction fees, $5 a transaction. I'm not trading back and forth Bitcoin with my friends like I used to be when back in 4 years ago. So how what's going on now to reduce? Where are we now? Because honestly, I've just held Bitcoin in a wallet and I've not moved it. For
Okay. So I think we're smoothly transitioning out of beginner stage onto more complicated topics. But
Talking about scanning.
But yeah, I think at the moment it's more of a store of value. There's a lot of drama going on right now.
It would be digital gold is its main use case.
Yeah, digital gold is the best way, because all these forks and all this drama right now of which the right way. You're right. The transaction until they settle on how Bitcoin really will be, in my opinion at least, transaction fees are going to continue to be high, because you don't have all of the miners focused on, like with Ethereum, you've got all the miners focused in one area, and they're developing whether it's more centralized or not, right? So you can keep the fees low. That's in my opinion. I think right now it's more of a store of value rather than a tradable currency.
Adoption, they're gonna have to get those fees lower, because I just remember trading it back and forth, and we were having fun. Oh, can I borrow some Bitcoin? Because you want me to buy you lunch? Give me some Bitcoin. I'll just give me your Bitcoin.
Well, okay, with transaction fees though, so you don't you get to choose what you pay for a transaction fee. So if it's something like if you're at McDonald's, you can't choose a low transaction. You have to pay whatever the instant price is, right? But if I'm buying a house from you, I can be like, hey, Eddie, here's my 150,000 of Bitcoin, and I'm just going to put whatever low fee is, and we'll see if it doesn't get accepted in the next 2 weeks, which it should. It most likely, even if you lowball what fee you're willing to pay.
Can we translate what that means when you're talking about fee? You're talking about gas, right? Is that what you're talking about? What you're
or with Bitcoin as well, because like when I made that donation the other day, I got to choose what my transaction fee was.
What you're really doing is you're buying memory on the blockchain, and because that's a limited, scarce resource, if you want it to be like get in that memory before anybody else, you're gonna have to pay more money.
Yes, and for people who don't know what blockchain and the fees and the miners are, as all of us are buying and owning cryptocurrency and exchanging it or whatever, on the other side, you've got people who own very powerful computers. It's not a laptop. These are like server towers that do nothing but just
ASICs and
just to visualize. It's it's like a tower just filled with
computer chips where they're hardwired, like programmed like in the circuits that only do one thing, and that's to mine Bitcoin.
Yes,
and you can use by orders of magnitude increase
so
in
for
efficiency.
all who don't know, define mining. As in, if we talk about mining for gold.
Well, a lot of people get this wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, people mining is like, I'm mining for gold, but it's actually the main point of it is to secure the network. It's to make sure no one else can make a fake Bitcoin. To be able to do that, you'd have to have more mining power than everybody else.
But
so it's a security measure.
It takes power.
It takes
to do
effort,
that.
and mining and getting the Bitcoin is just a reward for securing the network. That's really how it goes.
The miners are validating the transactions.
That's correct.
And in order to incentivize them to do that, they get fees.
They're doing two jobs. One, they're using their computers to solve these very difficult math problems, which then unlock a certain amount, which 12.5 Bitcoin at the moment. While they are solving those with their computers, they are simultaneously allowing every transaction in the Bitcoin world to, pound up or build up. And then after, every 10 minutes right now, or every 15 minutes, they solve one?
Average every 10 minutes.
Every 10 minutes, they solve one. So all the transactions that have gone on in the world in the last 10 minutes are then locked, secured, and hooked on like a chain, like a chain link.
The deeper in the chain they go, the more secure they are.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, exactly. And so that's how it keeps completely transparent. That's how they can keep third parties like a bank or a central bank for that matter out of the way. And this whole thing is like this whole ecosystem of cryptocurrency is self-sustaining essentially.
And it's the effort. So I was gonna make the comparison because everybody talks about gold. So in South Africa, right, there's this Witwatersrand, and it's a gold producing area in South Africa. In its first, when they found this vein, when they found this gold, it literally was feet under the ground. So if you think about that, you can go out, take a shovel, and just 10 guys can dig a hole and bam, gold. But as you start to mine that gold, the deeper that vein goes, the more effort that has to be taken, the more security that has to be implemented. This is kind of comparable to what Bitcoin is, right? There's 21 million, so we're on almost 18, right?
We're in the 16s.
Okay, we're still in the 16s. So as you continually start to mine that and get closer to the number, it becomes harder. The calculations become more difficult. Is that true as you start to gain? Okay.
Well, the more miners in the network, the harder it is to have a bigger portion of the whole mining algorithm.
Okay.
And every 4 years there's the halving, so it halves the mining reward.
Okay, so when we mine everything, then the only rewards, and this goes back to your question, Eddie, how do you reward miners to stay mining? And the fees, the transaction or that comes in, we have got to make sure that the community gets an equation where the speed at which you're transacting Bitcoin is worth the mining effort that goes into it and the transaction fees, because we can't have it an exorbitant fee to just buy and sell and trade goods.
Is layer, but layer 2 is pretty much the solution.
And that's, you're talking about what's coming up next.
Yeah.
And to my
I'll get into that later.
to Eddie's point, to say, okay, why would I want to do this? It makes this extremely difficult for beginners to get into this and say, why would I'm going to go buy a $100 pair of shoes. I'm going to buy it with Bitcoin, but yet I'm spending $105 on this because of the transaction fee. This does not make sense. Right. Or, my sub is
not that high.
I know, but it is definitely going to compound. And starting adding all those microtransactions up, think about how many times you pull your wallet out and put cash down the table and you pay taxes.
The only way microtransactions are going to happen if we have layer 2 like Lightning.
And that we're going to talk about, but that's where it's going to.
Right.
Faster transactions, smaller fees across the network.
But then this is why my friends and I have moved on to Ethereum, because it's faster transactions, fractions of a cent for fees.
And I think in the future, if Bitcoin can't get out of this position where it's a store of value, then I definitely think that people will eventually, I've got my gold in my safe right now for a rainy day, but I also have dollars in my hand right now to go to McDonald's or whatever. And that could totally be where there's a nice equilibrium between.
I'm saying we're kind of at an odd point right now in history, because we had in the beginning we had Bitcoin. In the beginning there was Bitcoin, and then we had
brand name recognition,
and then we had a few little forks of Bitcoin, and then we had some clones, and then in 2013, 2014 we started seeing Ethereum and other stuff, and then we saw a Cambrian explosion of ICOs called initial coin offerings, and so we had a lot of different use cases and stuff for all of those, and they had a big pump and dump and stuff. And what we haven't seen yet, which is start going to happen next year with Lightning Network, is this thing called layer 2, which is a layer on top of what Bitcoin is right now. Just like the internet has many different layers of abstraction, all starting with TCP IP and stuff like that. And so then what we're having in the future is going to have orders of magnitude increase, because we can only get 2 or 3 times orders of magnitude increase in transactions right now, because we can only do about 4 transactions per second on Bitcoin.
Okay.
And Ethereum's not that much better.
7.
Yeah. It's
7.
That's pitiful.
Okay, 7.
We're trying to do the internet of money. We want to do e-commerce.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little bit of e-commerce going on right now. That's probably the next use case. But what we're gonna have to do, and it's coming. People are working on this right now with a segregated witness, the last upgrade we had.
Mm-hmm.
We now have permissionless innovation for everyone to use. That's what the big thing for the internet was, permissionless innovation. That's what took the internet take over many businesses. We have everyone in the world free to innovate. That's what's going to be happening in the next few years with Bitcoin and Ethereum. They're going to these things called, we're going to have Lightning Network, which is pretty much just a big network of computers that every now and then will group their transactions onto the blockchain, but they're only limited by the speed of the internet for sending transactions between each other. So that's pretty much going to solve micropayments. And then we have these things called side chains and drive chains, which pretty much allow anybody to create a cryptocurrency, peg it to Bitcoin, so it's already going to have a bunch of value. You don't have to bootstrap value, which is one of the hardest things for currencies to do right now. And you're going to be even better to innovate. So it'd be easier to innovate because you can just do it on top of Bitcoin and Ethereum. Mm-hmm. So
when you say side chains, you guys clearly know the news. I mean, it's not like it's on every single one, but a big one this week is CME the commodities market exchange.
Yeah, that's not a side chain.
Okay, I was going to wonder, are they, because they're about to start issuing futures, which is going to make it much.
It's just like a company. Well, not a company, like
so,
exchange.
So then will they hold like a...
Yeah, they're just going to hold Bitcoin.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it's 1-to-1 or if it's fractional reserve or not.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
And then people will just... Yeah, that's what they're kind of doing with the ETFs. It's really it's kind of like an ETF, but not exactly the same.
Because they'll have to hold something.
Yeah.
So that people can trade back and forth. Because if you open a contract and close it, like there's got to be something.
That's
so
another reason actually I think to invest right now is this is one of the only investments I can think of ever where the average person can get in before Wall Street does.
Yeah.
Like there's been some maybe some big head people on Wall Street with a lot of money who invested in Bitcoin already, and some venture capital people in California, but like the big institutions where you put your 401k and stuff in, they haven't been able to because they're not legally able to without going to an ETF. And now that we have a futures contract, that's paved the way probably for an ETF to come out next year.
That's absolutely the first step in making it legitimate for a market exchange.
Coinbase and stuff right now, it's still pretty easy for the average person still to buy in right now, but it's going to be way easier for institutions, and they have orders of magnitude more money.
And not just institutions, but just like average Joe at home who's just got a Scottrade account.
Yeah.
And he's like, man, I really want to get into Bitcoin, but I don't really know how the hell to do this. And I'm too dumb to properly, because it's one thing to buy Bitcoin. It's another thing to properly use it or secure it.
Yeah.
But if the Winklevoss twins get their way, which they absolutely are going to, it's just a matter of time.
I mean, it's amazing with cryptocurrency. Okay. So take Facebook example, like this big thing that got really popular. But the only people who really gained value from it were those early angel investors and the VC firms. Here in cryptocurrency, anybody can get in and they can beat Wall Street, and they can share the wealth that's accumulated from them coming last. Being first is the easiest way to like really make more money.
But it's kind of a softball pitch if you're talking about a fund. So now you're taking accumulation of 20 of the top coins and putting it into a fund, and you buy into that fund at an X amount rate, and then is it just like a mutual fund? It'll go up and down. That's where I think the most exposure to the ordinary average person are going to look into investing into that. Look, I just want to set it and forget it. That's the whole kind of idea almost behind Wall Street. And you were recently in the fund market, I guess you could say, commodities trading exchange market, and people were interested in doing it. They don't even know where to begin or how to start.
Yeah,
if you start funding it, right? If you start putting in these funds where you take 10 coins that you hold, like I said, like a mutual fund, that makes it attractive. That helps everybody who's invested in those coins, their value go up.
Yeah, I'd like to make that announcement. I officially just left my job in the securities industry. That's the truth. You guys are the first to know. I've officially
started my first job.
High five all around. Yeah, I dropped my licenses in the securities industry, and I've just registered with the state and the feds to open a crypto advisory firm. So people that want to get in and just are like, I just don't know. This is too much for me. I'm your guy. Call me, email me, and we'll get you in. I mean, and like I said,
what are you doing? Education?
That's the other thing is that like I said, okay, fine, go to the exchange, buy it. So many people are just like, I'm already overwhelmed. And then, okay, you buy it. So I ask you, how are you going to store that? Are you going to store it on the exchange? Are you going to store it in your offline wallet, a cold wallet? How are you going to, and all this other, and are you going all Bitcoin? Are you going to split it between Ethereum and Bitcoin? Are you going to get a little Litecoin or Ripple? Litecoin is super underrated. I don't know. I just want to get it. Okay, well then, you could buy a house on your own, Eddie. But you use a real estate agent because, allegedly they're professionals or whatever. So that's the same thing I'm doing right now. So, folks that are interested.
Just give some advice to those people. Like, you can definitely do some IRA stuff, get like the tax advantage ones to invest in those ETFs that might come out. But okay, here's the thing: in the future, the world has become way more like digital. Like software companies are going to be the biggest companies, and like a lot of things like that. A lot of things are being connected to the internet, even though you might not want to. Probably shouldn't do that for security. But here's the thing: operational security, OPSEC, is going to become so important. People, it's now instead of just holding like your Facebook accounts and stuff like that, with digital currency, you're going to be holding your money. Like, and there's it's just you're in charge of it unless you want to put it into a third party.
It's a good point.
Yeah. So you really need to research this stuff and like gain practice. And I would say definitely buy some Bitcoin and make your wallet out of it, and get your own wallet for it and everything. And control your own keys. at least a good portion of it, like, because anything can happen. Like, you can have bank bail-ins like Cyprus and Greece. You can have a lot of crazy shit that can happen when, like, shit hits the, well, not shit hits the fan that bad, but like when there's big recessions and stuff like that.
You know, just wait. Like right now, it's no hidden secret that Brazil, China, Russia, India, and at least one, I forget the other country.
Yeah.
It's some of the BRIC nations and then another one. They are openly
Yeah.
discussing how to get off the petrodollar
Yeah.
and make a Chinese yuan pegged petro yuan. And if that happens, watch out, because again, people ask at the very beginning,
But yeah.
why should I be in Bitcoin? I say, well, tell me about your retirement plans.
Yeah.
How much of your investments, including your home, is tied to the U.S. dollar? And like, all of it, I guess.
But
I go,
yeah.
boy, wouldn't that be bad if the U.S. dollar tanked?
Yeah. Just like, I don't know. Yeah. Just circle my point just one more time. Just like, in the future, even if you're not technically minded, you're going to need to learn how to do better OPSEC. You have to.
Mhm.
It's a necessity to be in the modern world.
Well, let's put that in layman's terms too, to some degree. So just diversification.
No. I'm talking about like you do passwords and stuff. You know how to make sure your computer isn't compromised.
I understand.
Yeah.
And that's important. And there are things such as
There-
the hard.
And there needs to be
wallets.
more like classes for non-technical people and
Right.
stuff. But I swear, the next coming decades, it's one of the most important things you can possibly learn.
So again, what I was going to go back to is that what you're talking about is, it's not. I mean, we've seen some of the biggest banks and financial institutions fail. We saw it, right? And we've had government, our money that we're paying in taxes, you have to bail them out. Basically,
Yeah.
But I don't know that other than the value of Bitcoin dropping to nothing, right? It doesn't quite fail where you can't actually get your assets. You can't go to the bank and get your money. If the bank says we're putting a hold on withdrawals, that's not a case where the cryptocurrencies are. There's no one single point of failure, so to speak. You'll still be able to use, spend, access your Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies for commerce, to make trades, to buy things. I don't know. I'd really like to see the background on how long banks go before they fail, or they get bought out, or they get consolidated. Bitcoin, this is kind of happening. I guess we can get into this, where it's splitting or forking. This is the closest thing that we have to a bank buying another bank, or consolidating into a bigger bank.
Still not the best analogy.
It's not really, but it. So let's get into what is happening while forks are happening and splitting, because this really is splitting into a different category of commerce. Bitcoin, Bitcash, Bitgold are not the same coin.
Yeah, for people who aren't aware at home, there's a lot of drama going on in the Bitcoin ecosystem right now with the thing called forking. And, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, it's basically just a group of developers saying, you know what, I really love Bitcoin, but I think it could be better if we do these features. And people say, you know what, go off and do it on your own. They say, all right, we will. So they get enough miners to agree to their idea, and they literally, like you come to a fork in the road, they fork off, and it's no longer the original Bitcoin. It's slightly different few features here, and then you just kind of let the free market decide which one's the better one.
That's where the chaos is, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
because everybody likes particular features, but nobody can agree on which features you should have, because some people like X, Y, or Z, and if you just like X, Y, or Z and you want to just create it because you like one feature and another, you can just fork it.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
That's going to cause problems from a end user standpoint. That's going to cause a lot of confusion. And so that's where I see, in addition to the scaling, problems ahead for user adoption.
Yeah, just to clarify real quick, we're talking about actually hard forks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what's the drama. Just to clarify, a hard fork is not backwards compatible. Like, the chain's been going on, and this new group of people want to make new rules that are conflicts with, or add to the old rules, so they're not backwards compatible. A soft fork, which we had a few months ago, segregated witness, which is a soft fork, which is backwards compatible. So it's kind of like more of like a friendly fork, as in like you're not forcing one off the chain, you're not really causing all that much drama, because like you can choose to use the new features, you can choose not to.
And what were some? Okay, now that we're all four sitting here, what were some of the biggest? Because this is why Tim and I was texting Tim the other day, because, like I said, there actually are the people who are trying to make this new Bitcoin have a lot of influence behind them. And for people who are familiar with the website Reddit, there are a couple of Bitcoin-related subreddits.
Yeah,
One is just
two
Bitcoin,
yeah.
and then one is BTC. And it's no secret that both of them are basically controlled by and censor in favor of whichever Bitcoin version they like. And so over the last few weeks, this fork coming up has just like sprung on us. And I haven't found anybody having actual discussion about the pros and cons. It's all been a bunch of tribal name calling type stuff. It immediately devolves into just tribal name calling.
That's just like human nature. That's
Yeah.
like, it's kind of unavoidable.
Well,
But, like,
at least back in August with the Bitcoin Cash fork, it was pretty clear. People were having open discussions, and like it was easy. But like this was very kind of
over a
undercover.
year ago when it was pretty much just developers talking about it. It was really like a lot of good conversation and stuff. You can go back and look on those, and that's where like segregated witness kind of came from.
And so, what are some of the pros and cons that you see of this new fork that could come out? The biggest things I've seen, and correct me if I'm wrong, or add to or whatever, is the new fork, the new Bitcoin they're trying to fork off with, is going to be much more centralized, which is kind of against the idea of Bitcoin as a whole, because we're trying to get away from central banking, that type of
and
thing.
increase the block size, which I would argue increases centralization as well.
Well,
Okay.
So SegWit is basically it's an alternative software. It's a modification of Bitcoin software run by network participants that enforces the protocol rules.
Are you reading that?
Yeah, I am reading this.
Yeah.
In this case, its code is called BTC1. So it's an attempt to increase the block size. So it's a specific rule, right? It's supposed to optimize and lead to capacity boosts, like Eddie was talking about. Or being faster. It's anyone that does not comply to these rules basically do not become a part of this network. If they do not switch their software, they are still.
Well, segregated witness, you can still do old transactions.
You can, but if you decide to switch to one or the other, I mean, that's kind of the argument, or that's kind of the are you going to go full on SegWit? Are you just going to run this? Are you just going to mine this?
Well, there's incentive. Your fee is actually cheaper.
As an incentive, absolutely.
And okay,
go ahead.
Segregated witness was completely needed, and it paved the way for layer 2 scaling that is in
disagree.
development now, which was completely necessary. And
Yeah.
now that we have that, it's fucking off to the races next year. Like, I think Lightning Network's scheduled for January, February.
And will that be a soft? What is a soft?
It's
fork?
not even a fork. It's
No,
just
it's not.
it's a layer. It's the first
Just
layer 2 thing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like a side chain.
Okay.
Yeah, and yeah.
I'm not a Bitcoin guy, as I said.
Yeah.
You guys have. I know what you're talking about, but from a layman's perspective, you've totally lost me, because I buy digital currency off of Coinbase, and they just recently sent out an email that said, well, you're going to get some B2X,
Yeah.
you're going to get some BTC, but eventually, whatever the longer chain is, we're going to call that BTC. So, adding to more confusion, now you have an exchange, a marketplace that's going to relabel. That potentially could relabel what Bitcoin is, and
Yeah.
now it's adding to the confusion.
Which is exactly why Tim and I were on the phone for 45 minutes,
yeah.
like a bunch of like high school girls trying to like gossip and figure out what the hell's
Okay,
going
well,
on, and then we got this together.
I have to do some comfort you, because I was a
Okay.
little skeptical too.
Could you share this on the
Yeah.
Facebook page?
Wait, what?
I can't in the thing.
Okay, I got some good news.
Yeah, okay.
I too.
Okay, here we
was
go,
a little
Eddie.
Worried. Probably the most worrying thing you can look at is people are like miners that are signaling for the 2x upgrade.
Mhm.
And it's like
Put it a
about
little more towards your
80%.
mouth there.
So it's about 80%. So, but
So
the
you're
thing
saying
that-
80% of miners
yeah,
are signaling
because
that they are
that's
support
probably
of
the most worrying thing.
Okay.
But here's the thing: it doesn't cost them any money to do that, and it's based off them like a non-binding contract that they signed. And here's the thing: there's on Bitfinex and some other markets, there are futures on Bitcoin 2x and the Bitcoin right now, and it's right now at about $900, and the Bitcoin right now is about like $900 less than what the spot price is right now. So if like you want to think there's an efficient market that has knowledge, because even if there were these miners who knew that they were going to switch over, and there's other miners that are going to switch over, if they were rational, they'd be buying the shit out of these futures and driving it up. So I think it's really good insight to think that it might not be as risky as we thought. And
Okay.
if I were gonna bet money, which I sort of kind of am because I'm holding just Bitcoin,
Mm-hmm.
that it will probably go fine, but I guess we'll find out in a few weeks.
I think if this fork fails,
Yeah,
it's going to be another reason
cause
you'll.
a lot of problems.
I think
yeah.
if this new one fails, I think that'll be another reason that adds.
So yeah,
I mean, okay, we're at 6,800, which I did not expect at all.
I would definitely advise anybody who wants to invest and hasn't invested yet to wait until after the fork goes up. And that's what I advise my dad to do. And he's a little mad at me because it just went up like.
I'm on the opposite side of that. So I would say put your money in there now.
See, that's what I would say.
Do that because in my opinion, when it was 5,500, the last Kansas City Bitcoin Club meeting that we had, I was showing everybody how to buy Bitcoin.
Hey Zach, we see you. I'm going to answer your question 1 second.
And so one of the things that we talked about was, is buying in at that level of price, and everybody said, "Bubble, it's a bubble, it's a bubble." So, and even I got cold feet at doing that, at buying in, and then I ended up buying a little, but still, from that point.
Okay.
And so we'll probably, in my opinion, just opinion, we'll probably see, obviously 7,000 plus. So even when I was talking about it then, what's to say that it's in the growth, it's not going to hit 8,000 because of the speculation?
Yeah, I'm like.
That's still.
I still think you're probably safe buying right now. I don't want anybody to get really burned.
I don't
if
either,
it goes
but
bad. I think there's like maybe less than 5% chance it goes bad.
But what the point of this is, and I want to get back to something that Eddie had said about Ethereum. If you purchase, Coinbase just came out today and said if you purchase Bitcoin and you hold it in their exchange, they are going to give you an equal share for every one Bitcoin that you have, and it could be percentile.
Or you can just hold it on your own paper wallet or hardware wallet and find software that will do it for you.
You can, but I'm just saying a major.
Most people hold it in Coinbase.
Yeah,
let's be honest.
Yeah, people getting into hard wallets, paper wallets, hardware wallet. But if you have it in Coinbase, you are going to benefit from this for every one coin that you have, and again percentiles. You're going to get a coin of a new whatever's coming out. So look at it as a dividend. Show me something.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely a good upside.
Show me something.
I'm just trying to be for the people who are
that.
like most risk averse as possible to wait till, which like someone like my dad.
But if you had Bitcoin when Bitcoin Cash, the same thing happened just a little while back, and everybody was talking about how it was going to crash.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got right now Bitcoin Cash is what, almost 500, over 500. So
Yeah, I'll pull it up while you talk.
You got a dividend, right?
Yeah.
And now you still are increasing your bottom line as Bitcoin continues to rise.
Yeah.
And your Bitcash continues to rise. You are now.
Yeah.
People, I mean, you're talking about making hundreds of thousands of dollars if you have enough Bitcoin like that.
Yeah, I sold my.
The second that it.
I sold my
triggers.
Bitcoin Cash, but like I just have Bitcoin now, so.
Bitcoin Cash is at 526 right now.
526. So, and Bitfinex has futures on this new coin at $800, $900, almost $1,000 that you can buy futures of this. Let's just say it comes out at that. Let's say it comes out at 800, even if it drops in half. You still then have to wager what your purchase is going to be made if you're going to win, lose. Yeah. I still think it's still a good buy, but yeah.
So just a little extra good news on that for the if you're worried about the fork, on the Bcash, Bitcoin lost about 50% of its hash power for a little while, and the price went fucking up still.
That is good.
Right?
For those people who don't understand what that means that the amount of people with computers mining dropped significantly, but the trust and the desire, the demand for Bitcoin was still that strong that it still went up. Yeah, it's a brand name.
And when you're talking about currencies, like it's a good point to make. Like the network effect is the biggest and most important thing that there is.
Mm-hmm.
Like the amount of people using it, that's like the most important thing for like a universal like internet currency.
Okay, Zach here. He couldn't make it tonight, but Zach says get the free coins. Zach he says get the free coins.
Oh yeah, you can buy.
And then he
Like
says,
I said,
although he changed his comment, I saw what you were saying earlier, Zach. You changed your comment. He says, or will alts gain more value than the free coins you get holding BTC?
Okay, let's talk about
And that's what I was getting at a moment ago.
That's the good thing about forks is a lot of the altcoins have been kind of shaking a little bit lately because everyone wants to be on Bitcoin right now because of the free kind of dividends almost.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. After this thing fail, I hope that this new bullshit fork coin fails because after that, Ethereum and everyone else is going to get a lot more attention, and it's going to go.
But
Which
then,
part?
Okay,
No, I do.
That.
I want SegWit 2x to
that
fail.
Might true,
I do.
That might be true, but like, if Bitcoin goes through this well, it's fucking off to the races for it.
Yeah, it's next stop
Like
is 10,000.
like I have no doubt.
Well,
it's-
how
it-
though?
I-
Well, it does well
it's,
how?
Like in the near future, like there's no like scheduled problems on the horizon.
The sky is not falling.
Right. What I mean is, I want this fork to be similar to what Bitcoin Cash, where just forks off. Those 2x guys go do their own thing, their shady own deal, and the rest of us that understand and want the true Bitcoin. Yeah, then I agree. Like then we continue, and then the alts get a lot more attention.
I have,
like
without a
Ethereum.
doubt, like Bitcoin price is suppressed right now, even though it's going up a lot, just
Right.
because of the worry of the fork.
I
Like
agree.
you think it's going up fast right now? Wait till after a successful fork.
Well, and okay, I want to speak about the alts really quick, and then I want to get back to Eddie, something he said about Ethereum. Right now, people are. I mean, I'm looking at altcoins across the board, right? OMG.
Yeah, he's got. If you
OMG
for those of you who
is
can't,
getting
for those of you who can't see, Tim's got an entire little scratch pad of all sorts of alts right here. He wants to go over.
Some of these things that were at
OMG, $5.83 right now.
OMG was up to what? Almost 8.
It peaked at OMG peaked at around $14, and that was like about a month ago.
Okay.
You know, and I thought it had bottomed out at about 7. Now, 2 days ago, that was basically the bottom. Now it's come down again to 583.
Yeah, 580. So if you're holding alts, one of the things everybody says is hold, right? HOD, hold. But don't panic. I mean, if you must, get out. But I'm one of the firm believers in that some of these altcoins, call them what you will, they have an entire system behind them. They have this working product, working service that's behind them. And some of these projects take 2 years to get off the ground. You're putting money into what you should put money into what you really kind of believe in, first and foremost. If you're speculation, fine. Speculate all you want, buy what you want.
And that's the thing about altcoins. It's not, the altcoins themselves are not simply just currency, like Bitcoin. For example, Ethereum is not, I've never viewed Ethereum as a currency because it was never meant to be a currency, but I've always viewed Ethereum to be a platform upon which companies can run whatever things they want for whatever uses they have for blockchain. So that gives Ethereum its value, is because companies use it as a platform. OMG, for example, Omise Go, that's payment processing right now, concentrating in the Asian markets. That's not simply a currency. It's just it's a company that's running on the Ethereum platform for now.
One of the we talked a little bit about ICOs, but we haven't talked a little bit about ICOs. But so like Ether Party was another one, right? It is basically a company that is trying to take the coding and make it a little bit more pretty, in a GUI form, a graphical user interface for smart contracts. It sold at an ICO. I think some people, when I was on the Telegram chat, there was about 4,000 people on there. They had bought it $1 and $2 per token. When it hit the market, it was 2.8 cents, 3 cents. People freaked out. Now, I like what Ethereum Party is doing in that they're trying to bring smart contracts to the masses so that it makes it easier, demystifies it. That's kind of what all this really is. We have to find a path to kind of demystify this, make it a little bit more acceptable, and really find some wins among all this. For people that are playing markets, that are trying to make money, and they're just pumping them, whatever you want to call it, that is their own separate thing. But as some of these coins are commerce, and like Eddie said, Ethereum and what its foundation is, it really has some great technical aspects that you can garner from it, you can build upon. So long term, all these alts that are up and down, up and down, up and down, you're going to see some real winners, and they're going to have something that really offers something to the general public.
You have to wait, though,
You
because
have
these
to
are
wait.
long-term projects.
Yeah.
Gollum, for example, the world's supercomputer, is trying to go up against Amazon Web Services or things like that. They're trying to build, a supercomputer based on all the unused computing power that everybody has. But that's going to take a couple of years, 3 to 5, maybe 8 years to build out.
Yeah, absolutely.
You talked about, so Amazon, what happens when Amazon actually starts taking Bitcoin for a currency, that they actually start taking it? Microsoft takes it. Why wouldn't, Amazon's another one. And I think the only reason that Amazon is maybe waiting is they're trying to find a new home for their next big warehouse. So the distribution point, which could be, they said, well, they said North America. I think that means Canada. For me, that could mean it doesn't land in it. But at any rate, if they start taking it, then you're going to see a spike in, it's going to blow up.
Okay.
So speculation, but.
Yeah. So, okay. Here's the thing about altcoins. I talked about that Cambrian explosion that happened last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And if you try and trade them, like you could have made a lot of money, but you're gonna have to time them right. And nowadays, there's way too much big money in, and I swear anybody who's trying to do it, you're not gonna fucking time it right. And here's the thing about the future: Bitcoin and Ethereum are getting layer 2, and but the whole thing with that is we're gonna have side chains, we're gonna have ped coins, we're gonna have Drave chains, we're gonna have Lightning Network and shit like that. There was this Cambrian explosion of them, and it was permissionless innovation, and that's awesome. But what's gonna happen now? It's gonna be permissionless innovation on highly valuable coins like Bitcoin and Ethereum, and any altcoin that's not gonna have a popular way to atomic swap on Bitcoin or Ethereum is not gonna become popular. It's gonna die down.
It's like the internet. It's like the internet of the 90s,
Yeah.
and you either continue making websites of the 90s or you get with the times and you make websites of the 2000s.
We had a Cambrian explosion, and it was an amazing time. People could have made a lot of money and got really lucky and stuff like that. But it's gonna consolidate now more with all these new technologies with layer 2.
And so there's a token, or there's a new.
If you
There's
want,
a
like,
new company that has a token out that they're trying to say that
Yeah.
this is internet too, and they have a good argument.
Yeah.
It's Blockstack, right? So they have a really good argument
Yeah.
about this. It's called Blockstack, and I'm not trying to, get
there's
behind anything.
a lot of cool ideas, and I want permissionless innovation and stuff.
Right.
But this is what I think: when you get ICOs and stuff like that, you get a lot of pump and dump scams, like a shit ton. And imagine now you can have that be a Bitcoin and have all this functionality of all these other altcoins, but it's just like a Bitcoin. There's no like really risk in it because you always can put it back onto the main chain,
Right.
and you can experiment in like your whole environment without messing up the Bitcoin blockchain or anything like that. It's literally the next step, and all the scalability and stuff. And we had this amazing get rich quick with pumps with altcoins. But it's not going to last forever.
But
And
you're talking
this
about.
This is what the future of the next few years.
It is, and in a technical aspect, it's very appealing, and for people that understand that, they get it. Some of the things that are coming out, so like, and I know, and Aventus came out at a really, it didn't come out at it came out at a very decent price to what you bought tokens at, but Aventus is a great idea. Right, so it's concert venues and spaces where you don't have all the scalping.
It's not network effect like Bitcoin, and somebody just copied that altcoin idea and make it a sidechain of Bitcoin or Ethereum. They're gonna fucking win out because they'll have the network effect a lot easier.
And so that's where the tumultuous times that we're going through will get straightened out. Right now, though, it is a good time for volatility and speculation. And if you have an extra 100K and you want to dump it in 20K, whatever. But yes,
I swear, until like. There's like a 51% attack where the government tries to ban Bitcoin. This is probably one of the lowest points of Bitcoin that's been this year.
It's definitely, as far as it getting regulated and all of a sudden somebody trying to take it over. Let's hope that doesn't happen. There is going to be mass regulation though coming, I think, because banks do not like this. They're not happy about this.
But then they also want to be innovative. They want buzzwords. They're conflicted.
They don't want to miss it. Eddie, you talked about Ether split. Tell us what you know, because you have a good grasp on Ethereum. It split and created an Ether Classic coin that ultimately didn't and hasn't done so hot. We're all kind of worried. What if this actually happens to Bitcoin and Bitcoin Classic becomes the new Ethereum Classic? Can you speak to us about that a little bit?
Well, as far as Ethereum goes, Ethereum Classic split because the developers back in 2015 there was the DAO. There was a ICO called the DAO, and people invested a lot of money in the DAO, which ran on top of Ethereum on a smart contract, and there was vulnerabilities in that contract, and people lost their DAO tokens. And so because it was such an early time for Ethereum, the Ethereum developers decided that, well, we can actually just reverse that by forking it and just recreating history. Now, there was a lot of disagreement at the time because the original idea of having a blockchain is that it's immutable. You can't change history. Well, the Ethereum, in order to save itself, and its reputation, even though Ethereum itself had nothing to do with the vulnerability of the DAO, decided, okay, just this one time, we're going to reverse history. And so the people that disagreed with that what ended up happening is the developers returned the money, returned the DAO tokens to their rightful holders, and the people that disagreed with that decision forked Ethereum and kept the history where the DAO tokens are still stolen. Now, ultimately, the marketplace, in the free market, which one has won out so far? It's Ethereum. It's the developers, and it's proven widely successful because look at all the corporations that are invested in Ethereum and that formed the Ethereum Enterprise Alliance. Samsung, Toyota.
Yeah, it's impressive.
So at the time, you might not have agreed with the decision, and probably from an ideological standpoint, it was probably the wrong decision. But from a practical standpoint, it was the right decision to keep them alive.
So fast forward now to what we're going through with SegWit, okay, and what we're looking at now. I believe that this probably it had the best intentions. I think when they got together, they thought we're going to really work this out.
You're talking about the New York agreement?
Yeah, the New York agreement, and that was where a bunch of top level guys got together and said, this is just what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And there was an agreement, handshake, call it whatever. There wasn't. This is where a smart contract could have came in really nicely. But so now it's just this theory, and there's no definitives, but it's good and bad for so many different reasons, the volatility in it and everything. But if it comes out, if we get through this and it solidifies and makes a solid, more secure way of and speedier way of transacting alt or just cryptocurrencies.
Do you think 2x will do that, or?
Yes, I think it has the potential to do that.
Here's the thing: even if you didn't care about, knowing the technicals for now, what happened was a bunch of people, like I guess you can call them powerful.
Yes.
They decided, okay, this is the way we're going to do it, and all the users are going to follow. Okay, here's the thing. We want decentralized, open network, Bitcoin, blockchain. That goes against the whole idea.
It does.
I don't want any upgrades like that to ever happen. I want consensus from all the users, all the nodes. Did you see the node count? Everyone knows the nodes are the messengers in between the whole network. And right now, all the users have over I think 90%, maybe 80% of all the nodes, and those are all scattered around the world. In the last few weeks, we've had a bunch of nodes for 2x just pop up out of existence, and I saw on Reddit today, 83% of those are AWS servers that just came up.
And
shit.
Explain AWS servers for people.
AWS is just a server on Amazon hosted.
Amazon's cloud hosting service.
So someone just bought up a bunch of servers to make full nodes out of.
See, that's why I'm telling you. That's why I'm against this.
It basically kind of put.
If that's not an attack, I don't know what is.
Right.
It's called a Sybil attack. That's the term for it.
But it was to try and put the confidence behind what they're doing. Correct.
Yeah, sure. A few people with a lot of money buy, and the internet. It's the internet. You can, if you want to, in my industry, or my last industry, if you want to do a seminar to try to get clients, you'd put a mailer together and send out. It might cost you $10,000 at the end of the day. Now with the internet, it might cost you $1,000. Yeah. And that's the power of the internet, and that's what a few very powerful, wealthy people have the funds to make the rest of us around the world on the internet look like this 2x. Okay, it looks like that's the way to go. I'm just not convinced.
So do you support it, Alec?
2x? No, I do not support it.
So you're not supporting it at all. Well, so when it does happen, because I think it's going to happen.
Yeah. I might.
This is going to cause a lot of mass confusion in the days that follow this.
We had some people who were confused with the Bcash thing too. It's just one of those things you gotta write it. You gotta look long term on this shit.
Yeah, I mean, the fork's almost certainly going to happen, but like we said, it's just a matter of time of let the free market decide. I think this is gonna fall apart. I think a lot of people are like us, where we get it and we just don't feel. This doesn't feel right. It feels like it's forced rather than a natural thing.
It's gonna have a huge impact for a very short period of time. Speculators, pump dump, something like that, and then it's gonna rest. It's gonna the dust is gonna settle. It's gonna land Bitcash did at a certain amount, but if it doesn't get used and there's no volume, if it's not being traded, if it's not being used, then it could kind of go to the wayside and miners will switch.
Yeah, these powerful people that are making false AWS servers, you can't keep the volume and activity long term. You can't fake that long term. Right, it does matter how much money you have.
Let me ask you, Bitcoin guys, how many? Let's say now there potentially. Let's say we get to the end of the year. How many Bitcoin chains from the Genesis chain? How many chains are there going to be?
I think it'll be like the fifth.
5, maybe.
I think that's the 5th.
I realize that, but how many will? And then how many? The question is, I have for you guys, how many chains will there be by December 31st, and how many by that time next year will survive? I mean, survive,
Relatively
speaking.
I hope that the main Bitcoin one is the only one I don't mind if Bitcoin Cash survives. They went off on their own little island and had a party, so they're not being that intrusive or obnoxious. So I don't.
Well, there's one you can say. Bitcoin Cash definitely hasn't failed.
Right. And they seem to be developing decent ideas and not forcing it on everyone.
Like if you just look at the development for like Bitcoin Core, they have commits every day. They have some of the smartest people who were actually cited on Satoshi's white paper are working in Bitcoin Core right now. And it's a decentralized organization, unlike some conspiracy people think that that's like some centralized thing. And then you have these other developers on these B2X who are just completely incompetent. And you have Craig White, fake Satoshi on Bitcoin. I shouldn't be passionate like this because this is kind of the Reddit. I'm trying to read it right now.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Just like
as long as you preface this with everything on Reddit right now is totally manufactured at the moment.
I mean, I'm stating facts. I'm just
true.
They're very
There's the people are come down on this one side pretty hard or the other. In my opinion, I think that ultimately although I'm not 100% behind it, I think it's a good thing because we can find out what doesn't work early on. Now, for people that are invested in it for the purposes of making money, that isn't a great answer or a great perspective for that. Yeah. But it does help us to understand this so that we see historically what doesn't work. Like Eddie said with Classic, people came down firm on one side. Yeah. It didn't turn out too well. So ultimately, out of all this, I think that Ethereum will probably be the big winner long term from this. I think that Bitcoin Gold, or I think that Bitcoin as it is, look, it gained popularity. Nothing gives you more kind of name brand awareness than being a little edgy. So Bitcoin was used in Silk Road, things of that nature. It's where a lot of people know Bitcoin from still. So once you start getting more legitimate activities that go on, that you start seeing benefits from it, I think that
I like Ethereum too, but here's the thing for the future with all these layer 2 coming. Bitcoin, the single layer, the first layer, layer 0, layer 1, what you want to call it, it's a lot more secure than like Ethereum. Ethereum is, you have these bugs in smart contracts and stuff like that, which
very true.
You like Bitcoin, if you want to really trust your money, it's probably a better idea. If you want to do some cool smart contract stuff, you can do Ethereum. But the thing is with layer 2, all the stuff that Ethereum has, Bitcoin can have too, and all the things.
That's true.
All the stuff is going to go into the ecosystem, and they're able to do anything they can possibly do with sidechains and drive chains. They can be able to do everything.
But
it's all going to come back down to Bitcoin's layer 1, and that's going to be more secure. So that's an advantage it has. And also, just to take one little stab at Ethereum. I mean, I still like it. I like Ethereum. I still like
purist.
I still like Ethereum, and I used to be more into it.
Just don't view it.
But
It's not
the thing is smart contracts are a really cool idea, but the only cool idea, the really cool ideas, all involve the Oracle problem. And just to kind of go over the Oracle problem, I've talked about with you. It's kind of a big problem for smart contracts, is having when you make okay, I'll make it this example. We want to make a bet on what the temperature tomorrow is going to be in Kansas City. So we have a thermometer and we have it connected to the internet, and we have smart contracts, and that gets that data to when we make a bet, and at what certain time it decides if it's over or under some value. Now, a lot of things can happen. Someone can go with a heat dryer and make it really hot or something like that. Anytime you interface with the physical world, you're not going to be completely trusted. And the whole point of all these blockchain stuff is to be completely trustless. And even have one piece in that puzzle that's not trustless, then it's a problem, and the whole thing's not going to be trusted. So you might as well have that whole thing just be on a server somewhere else controlled by a single person. It's the same thing. It doesn't really big an advantage for that being the blockchain. And that's what a lot of companies and stuff right now are getting wrong. They want to do things on the blockchain, and the whole like they're gonna have problems because a lot of it's gonna come back to centralized control at some point and making a smart contract. So,
but we have seen some successful transactions with smart contracts.
Yeah, no, there's some cool things to do.
Real estate sale has gone through.
Yeah,
and that's a topic you're going to talk about this Friday at the meetup, right?
Yeah.
So smart contracts they aren't on Bitcoin blockchain yet, right? It's only Ethereum?
They have a scripting language. They just don't have what's called Turing complete. So they can't do as many different use cases as Ethereum.
Okay.
But I guess, like I said, when layer 2 comes around.
So one of the really cool
thing
things
called rootstock, which is pretty much Ethereum on top of Bitcoin.
Okay. So one of the really cool things about Ethereum right now is they got this thing with smart contracts, which is, like you said, it's making it it's taking everyone out, all the interested parties and potential pitfalls, and it's all based on Ethereum, where you can like a real estate, for example. And actually, I want to hear Eddie's input on this, but first, tell me about the real estate transaction you were going to talk about this weekend, real quick.
So, well, there's a couple. There's one that was in Florida, one's in California. The one so here's something though: you can still do a smart contract and use alt currencies. You don't have to use Ethereum to make that as a transaction for the actual currency.
Yeah.
So that's where I think that the smart contract, as it evolves, as it starts to get a little bit more secure, it's kind of infinite in its possibilities, though, is what you can do. Different triggers, different parameters of what it can do. That's the cool part of it. So it's kind of this living, breathing contract that if you do, it's a action-reaction to something that can happen. If I want to go and rent a warehouse, if I don't do this, then the door doesn't unlock. You know, you can be completely remote to this situation. It does remove certain complications to being in business, and it gives you a lot of value in what it does.
Just real quick, I think it's really cool, for business contracts and stuff, and I think that will definitely take off.
Yes.
The one problem with it though is that there's this thing called formal proof and Ethereum doesn't have it. Really, nobody has it right now. There's just starting to kind of make them, but you can't prove that your contract doesn't have bugs in it, and that's a big problem because they're not really smart contracts. They're dumb programs.
Right.
They just do whatever they're told.
That's not a problem with Ethereum. That's a problem with the contracts.
That is correct.
You know, and so that's, I think,
True.
that's some of the fallacy of the Oracle fallacy.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, but the whole part is a problem with Ethereum because nobody can prove that their Ethereum smart contract is bug free.
I understand that.
Yeah.
But again, if you just view Ethereum as a platform,
I think for the most part it's okay. It's pretty good, but it does have that small problem.
It can be totally
And
secure, it's just
and formal there's a big push right now in formal verification in blockchain programming languages. Bitcoin's doing it, Ethereum's doing it, and once that becomes more popular or it gets fleshed out more and used, that it'll be really good for that kind of stuff.
All right. No, I agree that that's again.
I still like Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I think Bitcoin
Again,
and Ethereum are going to be just two people.
apples and oranges. They only get compared with each other because they're quote cryptocurrencies for lay people.
Right. But they
but they're completely different things.
It's like gold and silver. Gold and silver are both precious metals, but that's about as close as they get right there.
Right. And that's what drew me to Ethereum, because it's not simply a currency; it's much more than that.
Me too. I think it's really cool. It's just like a worldwide virtual machine, pretty much. That's a really cool idea. I think Vitalik Buterin's a really smart guy and all that stuff. And there's a lot of good developers on Ethereum.
The deal with Vitalik was why is he so famous? Is he the original guy that created
it? Yeah.
Okay, I did see where he sold off 25% of his holdings quite a few years ago, and it's worth $20 billion today.
One other problem with Ethereum is it was pre-mined.
Okay,
that means people got to mine it. A select few got to mine it before anybody else did.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
That's kind of a deal breaker for a lot of people.
But the one thing about it, though, they were very open about it. Because that's fine. That's fine. But they were open about it. I was an original investor in Ethereum. Before Ethereum was simply a concept, and I bought into it. So.
Okay.
So
how did you find out about it that early? Where were you at on the internet that you saw this?
Where I was at the time, I was playing around with Bitcoin, teaching my friends about Bitcoin, but also looking at other things like Potcoin or Litecoin, things like that. But again, those to me were just currencies, and I was just I was following these conferences online on YouTube, came across this thing called Ethereum. Came across one of Vitalik's speeches, and he talked about it. And I'm not really a tech guy, but I understood enough about the tech to kind of follow along with what he was saying and what he was talking about. And what he was emphasizing at the time is the power of the blockchain, the ways that you can use the technology, and the ways that you view properties and property transfers. So that Bitcoin itself, when at the time Bitcoin itself is just a currency, but what if you can transfer stocks in the same way that you transfer Bitcoin? What if you can transfer real estate in the same way you can
Absolutely.
do Bitcoin? And so he started talking about other areas of asset transfer, whatever assets they are. It was a new way of thinking about property, And so as an attorney, I said, that's revolutionary, And the way that the blockchain secures that can't be altered. There's no need to do like a check on your title, because it's right there. It's open. You don't have to hire somebody to make sure that your title's clean on your real estate anymore, because it'll be right there.
Okay.
And so that fascinated me. And so when he talked about it, he says, you know what? And we can do something called smart contracts, where, and if an event A happens, okay, then then it execute Y or XYZ happens, if then type of deal, So I said, that's really fascinating. Self-executing contracts where you don't need to have a third party, be the mediator. It just automatically executes on its own. And I loved that idea. I thought it was completely revolutionary. He said, we're looking for people to buy into this thing. We need investors. And I said, I'm in. I'm in. I don't know what's going to happen. This could go to zero. Whatever extra money I had, I put into Ethereum, and then I got it, and I forgot about it. 2 years later, I said, wow, what did I just do? Yeah. And now so that was 2014. When August 1st, 2014 is when the pre-sale happened. And I honestly did not look at it until 2020 last year. Really, I honestly didn't look at it for 2 years, and I said, "Wow, is that for real? What I have?"
That's a question that I wanted to get answered too. So, the contracts that actually get executed and they are completed. Mm-hmm. So the threat of those, those are always stored. Those contracts are always there. It isn't something that just happens and goes away. No. But those are not something that are vulnerable, because they've already conducted.
Oh yeah, but there's they have different inputs. It doesn't have to crash on the very first time you use it.
No, but what I'm saying is, once a contract is executed and it's gone through all of its checks and balances, the contract is done and over with. So that's a stored contract. It's not something that can then be
the only way
to anything.
As a programmer, the only way you'd know there's a bug that's not in your code is using a mythical formal proof.
And there's a company out there that put themselves out there to be hacked as a token or as a company.
Yeah, the best thing to do is just get a lot of people to try and attack you to prove that your code is good. Bitcoin is over $100 billion secured because no one's hacked it. That's how it's secured. That's like a measurement of security.
That is
Ethereum was whatever. 30 billion. $30 billion secure.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. And the only time you do, and let's speak of that, so I do want to touch on this is security. And I talk about it all the time. I talk about hardware wallets and keeping your money on exchanges and paper wallets. I can't express enough if you do decide to get into cryptocurrencies, really educate yourself on how to hold your currencies. Okay?
Learn OPSEC. Seriously.
But keeping it in a hardware wallet, a Trezor, or a Ledger, or even on a paper wallet, keeping it in a secure deposit box or whatever, just be careful on how you conduct your business, who you conduct your business with. Know your client, I think, or know your customer is a big one. But these are all subjects that we're going to discuss on the 3rd.
This coming Friday. For those people who are in Kansas City that are interested, we have a meetup every first Friday of the month down in the Crossroads at Office Port KC at 6 p.m. We have a get together. Usually do a little hour or so of some topic, and then just break out, and it's really whoever you want. And usually we get like 30, 40, 50 people, and so. And it's really fun because everybody's on the same page. So we get people who are much smarter than us. We get people who are absolutely new, and it's like, I just want to know how to get into this. So come out and get involved. That's the least you could do if you're interested.
There's no solicitation. There's no pitch. It's really about the information. Is what we're trying to do is to get people acclimated to what this is, and we'll go over the basics. Smart contracts is going to be a topic of conversation, as are ICOs, initial coin offerings. And then we're going to talk this SegWit, to 2x until it's beat into the ground.
Yeah, I was like, if you're still getting it out, you're still an early adopter.
Agreed.
Totally. Absolutely. I heard on the radio last week where there's only 350,000 people in the world that have 2 Bitcoin.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And of a world of like 8
there's
billion,
more millionaires in the world right now than there ever will be at Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's another good one.
That's amazing.
So they can even all buy 1 Bitcoin if they wanted to.
So in talking about this, so we're right now we're at 68.44. Before we even started this, I think it was $100 difference.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. In the last 3 hours, we're up 3%, 2.5.
Yeah. So there's the reality of what I was. So a week ago, I kept saying hold 7,000, 7,000, 7,000, 7,000. So I think that obviously this is due to the speculation of where it's going, of what's going to happen.
That's
if you don't think that this is not a get rich quick idea. It really is. People made a lot of money off of this, but I also want to emphasize that this is something that you do to support what blockchain is, what cryptocurrency is. It is taking control of your holdings, of what real money can do, or what this form of money can do for you, and go to people that are very knowledgeable. If there are a lot of schemes out there. Dare I say MLM?
There's a lot.
100% pyramid schemes. If somebody says you get 2 friends and then they get 2 friends, this is just like the long distance calling cards. People are rushing into this, trying to scam people like crazy. Do not fall for that stuff. Ask us or ask friends for clarification. It happens too often.
So in 2011, my cousin and uncle, they talked to me about Bitcoin. I remember I went down there for Christmas, and they were just starting to do the mining, and they were pretty early on GPU mining too. And so now they have a yacht and live in Chile.
Oh shit! I'm so
They're
jealous.
pretty cool. I'm pretty jelly though. They're pretty awesome.
Yeah, good for them though.
Dude, they're seriously. I wasn't really at all. I had no economic knowledge back then. They told me so. I think a lot of people I talked to laughed it off the first time they heard it, and I obviously had close too. And dude, props for them for
back in 2013 when I first got into, I saw it skyrocket from like 40 to 50 to 60 to 80, and I was like, well, maybe I'll get in just to make some quick cash. And then I'm kind of reading about it. I'm like, it makes sense. So I'll put a few, I'll put a few dollars into it. And then as it started to get big, I was like, yes, this absolutely has potential.
I didn't get into it until 2013, and I did most investments like 2015. But here's the thing: we've had about 5 orders of magnitude increase.
We're talking about scams right now, and Zach's got a nice comment. Yeah, Zach, that's what we're talking about, actually.
So Bitcoin's had about, I think, 5 orders of magnitude increase. It started with fraction of a penny. If you go on blockchain info, look up a log chart of the all-time Bitcoin price.
Yes.
You can see it's really actually pretty linear, and a linear log scale is exponential growth.
Yeah.
And so if you look at all the orders of magnitude we've gone through about 5, and if you want to invest, just invest long-term or hold it. And if it really becomes what it really can become, I 100% guarantee you will have more orders of magnitude increase. Just be patient. If you want to do altcoins and stuff like that, you could have really fast order of magnitude increase, but you're going to have order of magnitude increase in risk as well. With Bitcoin, you're going to have a lot less risk, but a long term, a lot more guaranteed orders of magnitude increase.
Got a couple of viewers want to give a quick shout out to. Hello, Janet. Hello, Eric. Thanks for tuning in. And Zach, obviously, Zach also asked, anybody else get dowed? Did you get dowed?
I did not get dowed.
No, Eric. Zach, we're all clean. None of us got dowed. Oh, you did? No.
No, after.
Okay.
What's he saying about it?
Nothing. He just said, anybody else get dowed? So I guess we all missed it except for you, Zach. So thankful.
That's only Zach's
Did you guys see though? You're talking along what you're talking about the scaling. Did you guys see that Asian man just on Business Insider the other day giving that interview?
I did see that. That's pretty good.
Man, this guy gave this interview the other day, and it was only like a 5-minute spot.
Yeah.
But he's basically talking
points.
He was talking the most basic economic supply and demand of Ethereum as well, but specifically Bitcoin. Like you said, there are more millionaires and billionaires in the world right now than Bitcoin will ever be. So it's impossible. If every millionaire and billionaire woke up tomorrow and said, I want to own 1 Bitcoin, it wouldn't be possible. Bitcoin would go through the roof. Like, who even knows? Because it's impossible for them to own it. And he's saying that with the network effect, meaning, mass adoption, more and more people gaining on, it's about he's predicting $25,000 a coin in the next, I think, 4 years, which doesn't sound too far off.
But it's still only like a few % of gold market cap.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
And then once
like
we
we
get
said earlier,
two-layered thing, then we get into e-commerce.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. There's still a few things to work out.
We're barely in commerce at all right now.
Yeah.
It hasn't penetrated the marketplace at all. And I wanted to mention, so I don't know if anybody's actually seen Zach. I think he may be a computer program. I think he may literally be not a real person. I actually want to see him at some point.
You haven't met Zach yet?
Yeah, no.
He was at the one our last meeting at Thou Mayest. He was there. But we also had like 60 people show up to that one.
Right, there was a lot of people that did show up to that.
Yes, I can confirm, Zach. I know you're a real man.
But this is the thing too. I mean, I don't want to frighten away any levels of people that that are into Bitcoin, from beginners to the most veteran of people that are in this. It's good to know a basic set of rules, and this is where we had talked about. Look, there are some great companies out there. There are some good multi-level marketing companies out there. Okay, some of their products and services are good. The point that I'm saying is that the people who regret the most of what they do with Bitcoin is giving it away or putting it into something where the outcome looks really fantastic. It's one of the easiest pitches to say you can make thousands and the returns are amazing. But if anybody is asking you to give away your Bitcoin to be a part of something,
Bitcoin or Ethereum are one of the top 5-10 coins. Yeah. If you're trading in one of the top 10 coins for what we call shit coins, you're in trouble.
It's the Fight Club rules, right?
You know what is really awesome is I heard people who trying to quit smoking. So instead of buying a smoke pack every day, they buy that much amount of Bitcoin or Ethereum.
That's good.
That's like an awesome
bad.
advice.
There you go.
Trying to do something like that.
You just really do your research. Find somebody that doesn't have their best interests in mind. They have your best interests in mind of what you're trying to do. And that's, I think, what we're trying to do here, is to try and demystify what this all is.
Ultimately, I think you really just want to accumulate as much Bitcoin and Ethereum as you can. If you're trading with the altcoins, find a way to, in the end, have more Ethereum or Bitcoin than when you started with.
Yeah. Can I go through? Let me turn this just a bit. I'm going to go through a few headlines that I've been bookmarking lately. And this is all crypto related. Last week, Vietnam central bank bans cryptocurrencies. And actually, it was only like a month or 2 months ago that they said they totally allowed it. So that was a quick flip.
I think it's funny here now how Russia has banned on ban so much now that like a big country like Russia doesn't even affect the price.
And the other
it's
thing
pretty
about
much just like China right now.
Russia is crazy. Russia gets it.
Yeah.
Russia, I saw maybe 3 months ago now. You cannot buy an NVIDIA or an AMD graphics processor anywhere in Russia. I mean, maybe now you can, but you couldn't.
Their control, to some degree. Oh, there's a ruble coin though, right? So
could be. Well, I mean, if that guy Vitalik, he's met multiple times with Putin and Putin's top guys, so they're at least looking at it pretty closely. Here, this one: Japan's financial authority clarifies their stance on ICOs. So a while back, they were getting very, very negative and about to ban them outright, but it looks like now they're lightening up on it and saying, you know what, just be careful. Just be aware. It's very risky. You can easily lose money on it. China just opened. Okay, so China banned exchanges across the board. They've now, actually, as of yesterday, opened up a peer-to-peer trading
I think it's
platform,
funny, even like
and there's a huge amount of demand already.
when
Clearly,
China actually did ban it, it only lasted for like a week. The dump only lasted for like a week, and then it was straight
Yeah.
back up again.
yeah,
Which is great volatility. But so one of the questions, I know you're going through headlines.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask this question. I wish I could put it up as a poll. How long before USD coin actually happens? How long before that is an action? Because don't you think that that's the next step? Don't you think that all these banks are missing out on it? They're going to be like, this is what we're going to do. We're going to regulate it and turn it into USD coin and try. They're going to attempt this, right? Wouldn't you
Well,
think?
I think maybe. I don't know. Next recession coming around, they're gonna need to print a lot of money.
Yes, they are.
So
I really don't see any. I feel like they've painted themselves into a corner so tightly. Even if they issue their own coin, who's going to trust them? And if they do issue their own coin, is it going to be completely trustless and transparent and all of
whenever they
that?
print more money, their debt is less valuable.
Uh-huh.
So like I don't know if you watch Mr. Robot. That's kind of the premise of that of that show is they try and devalue the U.S. dollar, or like they did because of a hack, but it's kind of like the same principles. And they switch to like a virtual currency called eCoin as a kind of like way to get out of all that debt and just like kind of restart.
Think about that. So you're already all of your money, all your fiat currently in America is in USD. It's primary, right? So what would be that'd be a brilliant move.
Yeah.
Give us back the money that we're printing for you to use, so that you can use a digital or virtual currency.
Yeah.
That's just for them, for banks.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to seed that idea, but that's kind
But
of
the
a
thing is,
win-win
like-
for them, right?
Like, I really doubt any government's going to do a decentralized currency.
I don't think so either.
And the whole point
But
of
what's
a
Ripple?
blockchain is to do
What's
decentralized.
Yeah, it's not in their interest.
Like,
the
you
Federal
can- you
Reserve is run
accomplish
by
the
the
same
bankers.
with-
It's not in their
with,
interest.
like a spreadsheet. Well, I mean, like you can more optimize with like databases, and,
Right.
like, but like, there's no point. There's absolutely no point in doing a blockchain, and they're gonna figure that out at some point. I guess I can't believe they haven't figured it out yet.
For the people at home,
But it just all I do of a centralized blockchain, it would just be like a much slower database.
yeah.
And
For the people at home looking at the screen right now, and this is funny what we're talking about, and I've showed you this chart. You know, a lot of times we like to look at this chart that shows the price of Bitcoin increasing, but what I've liked to do lately is flip that chart around and look at the price of USD falling against Bitcoin. And if you look at it, you know how it's just like a straight up. If you look at the other way around, it's just panic.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, the dollar is absolutely falling against this. So that's kind of funny to look at, but yeah. So. Let me read a few more of these headlines here. PayPal co-founder compares Bitcoin to gold. Did you guys see that the other day, Peter Thiel? Peter Thiel is loving where Bitcoin
he's
could
kind of
head.
flipped on it.
Yeah. Singapore partners with Hong Kong for a fintech cooperation. They say here, traditionally as financial center, there's that comparison between Singapore and Hong Kong, but when it comes to fintech, this is where we recognize that there are a lot of need for collaboration between regulators.
Well, Singapore wants to be the fintech cryptocurrency capital of the world.
Yeah.
You know. They're
Yeah,
trying to position themselves.
Singapore has one of the highest standards of living because they have such small regulation, and there are companies. I think it was I watched an interview with what's that Andreas Antonopoulos, whatever.
Oh
his
yeah.
name
If
is.
anybody's just getting into Bitcoin and haven't seen Andreas Antonopoulos, it's kind of hard to spell. You might want to like spell it out for them at some point.
Yeah.
But if you want to
Maybe.
learn about Bitcoin, seriously, just go to his YouTube channel, do like his top videos of all time or something like that, and just listen to some of his talks. Like you'll learn so much, way more than here.
He was on Joe Rogan talking about how difficult it is in America right now for cryptocurrency companies, and they've been moving like crazy to either Switzerland or Singapore because Singapore's so open with it. Here's another one. Rumors that Amazon could accept Bitcoin.
Yeah,
I'm not
I
even
don't know
gonna
I think
screw
at
that.
some
I'm not
point,
even gonna give that.
like
any
there's
weight.
no way they can do it without having centralized accounts on Amazon.
Yeah.
Without Lightning or something like that. Like the
Good
Bitcoin
point.
cannot scale to Amazon right now.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Did you see the headline? Did you see the headline where Amazon bought the Amazon cryptocurrency the domain names? Amazon,
Yeah.
Ethereum.com, Amazon.
Yeah, I did actually. I
They
did
just
see
that just happened today, apparently.
Oh, that's cool.
That makes sense for them though.
Well, I mean, whatever registration,
whoever registered that scored.
$10.
Yeah, may as well.
But apparently they've had Amazon Bitcoin since 2013.
Dang.
Did they do that on Namecoin? Would they use the name?
No, I just read that today. That
Centralized.
Here's another headline. Central Bank of Singapore sees no reason to regulate cryptocurrencies. So that goes back to what we were talking about a moment ago. City of Tokyo announces blockchain startup accelerator. So Japan clearly sees, and I guess what is this? By the city? Yeah, I guess the actual city is in on that, so they get it. Oh, I clicked the same one again.
That's awesome.
Oh, okay. So regarding this fork coming up, Voltoro. Do you recognize that name? Voltoro withdrawals
They pretty much
NYA
have,
support.
like, cryptocurrency backed by Big Gold.
Okay.
Like, you know, Tether is a vault of cash. Like, yeah, Voltoro is just like a vault of gold.
Okay, so they have reneged on the SegWit 2x agreement, and that was as of just a few days ago.
Yeah.
This will be developing on the SegWit, right?
Yeah.
This will be something that up to the last minute is going to, people are going to either by just deciding or manipulating it is going to be.
The thing is, though, like, unless you're really idealistic and willing to lose money, you're gonna do the rational economic thing.
Right.
And I think that's more likely just to stay on the main chain.
Right.
I agree. Here, Vladimir Putin mandates new rules for cryptocurrencies. It says here they published 5 orders from Putin over the weekend, representing perhaps the most direct move to date by the Russian government to oversee activities around the tech industry. They established a plan to use the technology to create a single payment space with Eurasian Economic Union. Who the hell knows what's going to happen there? I mean, clearly he's getting involved, though. Oh, here's one that you and I talked about on the phone the other day, Tim, and this actually really concerns me. Ledger, which is a very popular company that makes they look like little USB sticks, and it's a way, if you want to be very secure with your Bitcoin, you can store it off of the internet. It's as safe as it gets. It's like a safety deposit box almost. Here's news that says Ledger Bitcoin wallet partners with tech giant Intel. And I'm telling everybody, this is official advice. Never buy Ledger ever again, unless you go out today and buy one right now off the shelf. Buy it right now and then never buy it again. Because if you have any sense on your shoulders, and you know that WikiLeaks is not just rumor but fact, Intel has backdoors built into every single thing they've built. So if you buy a ledger that's backed and written and produced by Intel, then you should just assume that the NSA or whoever the hell has the computing power has access to get in there and see where your coins are and pull them off and take them if they want them.
On the flip side of that, Trezor 2.0 just got available for pre-order today.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, that's a shout out to
wallet.
Yeah, absolutely. So that really kind of that disappoints me because it was in the WikiLeaks earlier this year that basically every major tech giant, Cisco, Intel, IBM, every single product and service that all of those tech giants have, all have built-in backdoors for hackers. Do not
store Bitcoin on your computer. Use our hardware wallet.
Yeah.
Like for your main amount, if you haven't like over a few $1,000s, and then for like pocket amount of money to your phone. Your phone is actually more secure than your like desktop or laptop computer.
What was the so on the Trezor 2.0? Is it a hardware? Is it new hardware? Or
yeah, it's actually got touchscreen on it too.
Okay, so new hardware.
And they're having like this like a programming language for people to develop like apps for it.
Okay, because one of the things that has deterred people away from, and it's not so much for me, is that if I have a hardware wallet, I want to be able to keep everything on that hardware.
Well, you can keep everything on Trezor. I know.
But you also do have to partner in conjunction with like Ether. You have to go to my Ether wallet or do something of that nature. Yeah. You can keep it locally. There's a program that you can keep it locally and do it. But as these start to develop, I think that's the worst thing for the ledger. I was looking into it. I bought a couple. I was messing around with them.
Well, like usually for hardware wallets, they're really heavily audited just by the community.
Yeah.
So hopefully maybe I can find something.
Keep them,
I can understand. They get big eyes seeing Intel come up and say, "We're going to write you a big fatty check, and you guys are going to be heroes." I get it. Here's just a few last ones. Switzerland awards first AML KYC, which is anti-money laundering / know your customer license to Bitcoin companies. So Switzerland's getting legit on here. Gates Foundation launches a blockchain-based mobile payments solution. And actually, this is really interesting because you remember when we were at that New Currency University, whatever, no, we won't talk about that. But we were talking to that black guy from which country? Kenya?
Africa.
Yeah.
He was South Africa, wasn't he?
No, it wasn't South Africa. It was one of those
what was the payment system that Vodafone had, which was...
Yeah.
There is some payment system that's very much like Venmo or Bitcoin that is huge, and I think it was in Kenya. I could be wrong.
Well, here's the thing with like Lightning 2, like layer 2 stuff, and we have a lot more scalability for e-commerce. Okay, e-commerce is pretty big today. Imagine how big when that barrier goes down, when you
Yeah.
can trade with anybody in the world without having to change currencies or going through like a lot of like regulations and stuff like that. You can just buy something from somewhere and anywhere in the world with Bitcoin that they make. Like everyone, like who's in a small village or something like that, now their customers are everyone in the world.
Right.
Absolutely.
It was M-Pesa, and it is.
Yes.
Yeah, M-Pesa is a really.
Oh, it
been
was
really
South
big.
Africa.
Yes.
Okay, my
I
mistake.
thought it was Kenya.
You know, it could be multiple countries.
Well, true. It's so South Africa's largest mobile phone operator, Vodafone, is. They said that they were going to scrap it, but I think that's who was behind
But yeah.
it. Is
Yeah.
It's Afghanistan, South Africa,
Yeah.
India. There's a lot of different people that can
Yeah.
use M-Pesa, but again, like you said, so that
Yeah.
there's a situation where
Yeah.
technology, hardware, phones have become the.
Yeah. I'm like,
everybody has it.
But I
and-
think like as an American and like you see someone kind of skeptical about Bitcoin, like, oh dude, I don't really need that. I don't really need that. I'm like, there's like 4 billion people out in the world who could fucking really need it.
And you know, people say I don't need that. I'll bring one last headline that I'm just re-bringing from memory. Just maybe 3 weeks ago, a guy in California, he flies from, and I'm just making this up because I don't remember the exact details. He flies, goes to his bank, withdraws like $22,000, gets on a plane from Sacramento, goes down to LA to buy a car off of a guy from Craigslist,
Yeah.
and TSA says, "Oh, hey, why do you have $22,000 in cash?" And the natural thing to do is piss off. It's none of your business. No.
Yeah.
Now that the government gets involved, it is their business. They took the money, and then after hours of questioning, they said, "All right, go on your way. Civil asset
Yeah.
forfeiture, boom."
I've heard a lot of those.
He might get the money back. I mean, Eddie, you're in the legal world. He might get the money back after years, but it's not looking good. And
the burden's on him to prove that there was
absolutely that he wasn't doing illegal
Right.
things. Yeah.
So in this case, you have your money in a Trezor. You get stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah, here you go. Take my Trezor.
Dude.
You can have
Yeah.
it,
Okay,
you know?
imagine there's a thing called mind wallets or brain wallets. I forget what the term is, where it just gives you about like I think 6 to 8 words to memorize, and you can just walk across a border with the private key in your head.
Yeah,
You
so
don't
that's the
even
other
need to
nice
have a
thing
physical
is
thing.
if you leave the country, if you leave the United States, if you guys have ever flown into the United
Yeah.
States from a foreign country on that declarations, you have to say if you're carrying more than 10,000 in
Yeah.
cash. And again, I want to say it's none of your freaking business.
Yeah.
But you have, you
Yeah.
you go to jail. You can easily go to jail for that. But with Bitcoin, you
Yeah.
could have $100 million in Bitcoin, and you could globetrot for the rest of
Yeah.
your life and not
It's just
care. It's no one's
information.
business.
Like regulating information is even harder than regulating just like ideas.
Right.
So, and Eddie, this is a good question. So, this could be completely fictitious, but one of the things, so they have this big problem, and it was a big story where they were trying to get into an iPhone. They're trying to hack into it. Now, if officers stop you, can they? So one of the things is the iPhone X. So it's got facial recognition. They just
Right.
go up to your face, and they've got access to it, right?
Right.
So, but from a fingerprint access, can they force you to put your finger down on the phone? Can they force you to do that?
No, just analyzing it because it has. I don't know of any particular case law, but just using general case law, probably not. They can't force you to open something that you. I mean, your fingerprint's your key,
Right.
You know, so they're going to need a warrant.
So what I'm saying is that if you store money in your phone or if you have information on there, this is where the cryptocurrency, this is kind of where the whole foundation of it is. If you have it in a hardware wallet, if you have it somewhere, it is encrypted.
Right.
It is not.
And technically, it's not even in your wallet. It's just
Right.
out there.
Right, and it's not as easy as you just typing in
I
a
think-
password or putting your finger down on it.
Yeah.
It goes through. It has checks and balances, and that makes it more difficult for people to eavesdrop, spy, look at what you're doing. When
I
they
think one of the funniest things I remember from that incident with like the iPhone, they're trying to get in the
Yeah.
iPhone, was that a lot of like politicians and like other people were going like, oh yeah, we need to ban encryption. I'm like, we ban encryption, modern society fails.
And I think it was Hillary
It's not
Clinton.
something you can stop.
And like Hillary Clinton, back when she was running for president, she wanted to create a Manhattan Project style encryption buster. You know, like the Manhattan Project when they made the atomic bomb. And I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember the exact quote, but she says, "We need a Manhattan Project style anti-encryption busting team," or something like. Lady, look at what's happening to your life right now. Had you only known about encryption and been more up to date, you would have just been scooting around doing whatever you want to today.
Right.
But
I mean,
now-
there's a lot of lack of understanding from our politicians
Yeah.
with technology. I mean, there was a bill introduced, I think, a few months ago that they wanted to. The bill was asking that people declare how much Bitcoin they're taking into the country when they're in the country. But that's almost the equivalent of how many emails are you taking into the country?
yeah.
I'm sure we're running long.
Yeah. I was just gonna say we've been going at this for about 2 hours now.
We can talk Bitcoin
Yeah.
So yeah, anything you guys want to throw? Any last things you wanted to throw out there when you came into this tonight?
Just the,
We'll start with you, Tim.
Yeah, sorry, I started taking. Just the simple fact that if you're going to get into this space, you really need to find somebody that has a good bit of knowledge in it, and that's going to give you not the information you want to hear, the information that you need to hear about this. So
Another shameless plug. Call me.
Yeah. So, and I'm going to shamelessly plug. So the Kansas City Bitcoin Club is on Meetup. It's open to all. We don't allow.
That's meetup.com. That is.
Yes, meetup.com. So it's not a solicitation. You can wear apparel. I mean, you can't not wear Adidas, Nike. If you want to wear your coin shirt, apparel shirt in there, that's fine. But there's no soliciting during the meetings. We just do it for information and to educate people on what's going on. So I'll be excited to see as this time comes up. Don't think that November 16th. A lot of people make the confusion that that's the date that it's going to happen. Yeah. This can happen. It's a block that gets mined. So you need to be prepared from, in my opinion, from the 14th on. Yeah. You need to really look at it. And if you don't have your money in exchange, that's good. If you hope to get paid out or whatever, know your exchange, know where you're at. Ask somebody, make a smart move.
Yeah, one thing more on the meetup. Every first Friday, 6 p.m. in the Crossroads at Office Port, KC. Yes. And also there's a Facebook group, Kansas City Bitcoin Club. Come on. It's a private group so that we don't get a lot of outsiders coming into. We had a problem with people coming in just trying to like do, sound like buy my Air Jordans, that crap. So I just put it closed so that nobody can do that. So anyhow, Alec,
I guess some advice advice that worked out for me is I scaled my investment the more I educated myself about like cryptocurrencies. The more I understood it, the more I was comfortable investing in. You should never invest in more than you're willing to lose, that's for sure. But yeah, I'm a software developer, so like it even took me like a few months to really understand everything. So if you're not even like a techie person, like just really be patient with it and kind of go over stuff again. Like I seriously recommend watching Andreas Antonopoulos videos on YouTube. So like I think that's like the best advice I can give to people. And
okay, I'm gonna try to spell that name.
And once you become more familiar with all these cryptocurrencies, you can make a wiser choice in investment. So yeah, just
okay. There, if you're watching,
well, I'm gonna go even more basic.
Hang on, one second. If you're watching at home, you can see I've got Andreas Antonopoulos pulled up on Google. If you don't know, it's spelled ANDREAS and then ANTONOPOULOS. Cool.
Okay, the advice I give, I'm going to go even more basic than anybody. If you're just starting out, just start with the big three.
True.
Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin. That's volatile enough, let me tell you. Yeah. That's volatile enough just keeping up with those three. But you know what? You're probably not going to lose a lot of money because I doubt that the big three are ever going to go to zero.
Right.
Start with the big three and work your way from there.
Right.
Because ultimately, if you branch out into other altcoins and you start trading, you always want to get back to accumulating the most Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin you can.
Good point. Yeah. And the last thing I'll say is the people who are even actually, I don't care how seasoned you are, this was the best thing I've seen to date right now is the documentary on Netflix, Banking on Bitcoin. I'm pulling it up right now.
It's on YouTube as well.
Yeah. I don't know if it's a pirate copy or whatever, but it's on YouTube.
I showed that to my dad, and he said, "Here's $5,000. Put this into put this into whatever you think."
That's exactly what I'm saying. This is not just like some boring documentary. I think this is a Netflix original, actually. I think Netflix actually made this on there. I'm almost certain they did. They went. Not only did they outline the whole history of Bitcoin, but they interview the original core developers that put this whole thing together. So you're hearing from the horse's mouth what exactly happened and why they did this and how it's developed. And as I was watching it personally, I'm not like the smartest guy in the whole world on this. I feel like I'm pretty darn seasoned at it. I kept asking myself, well, you're going to talk about this? And then they would talk about it. And I'd say, well, are you guys going to be biased? Or are you going to talk about this other stuff? And they would talk about it. It is the most well-rounded, informative documentary that if you, like I said, even myself, or if you just found out about this tonight, you should absolutely invest in yourself and spend 1 hour and 30 minutes watching this. Yeah. So anyhow, that's it. Let's see here. So we've been on this for 2 hours. In the last 3 hours, Bitcoin's up 2.5% almost. So
68, a little bit over
2%. Cool. So yeah, it's been a pretty shocking week.
We'll definitely have a $10,000 party if it hits it.
Yeah. We will have another. We'll do this. We'll get these guys together and maybe a few other people. Two other guys couldn't join us tonight. Actually, 3 others couldn't join us tonight. But if we hit 10,000, we'll do this again, and we'll be doing the same stuff. But hey, that's it for right now. I'm gonna end this. Thanks everybody for listening or watching. Either way,